me a go, no go for launch. Booster.
Go.
Retro.
Go.
Vital.
We go fly.
Guidance.
Guidance go.
Procedures.
Go.
Inco.
Go.
FAO.
We are go.
Capcom.
We're go fly.
Launch control, this is Houston. We are go for launch.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's entertainment.
Well, hello, it's all my little friends with all their little dreams.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Happy Memorial Day, if you want to call it happy, but I do want to pay our respects to the men and women that have served our country and have given the ultimate sacrifice and just sacrifice in general for us out there. So happy Memorial Day to them. So as I've mentioned earlier, guys, I have Trevor Mathews here from Emerson. He's one of their trainers, and we're glad to have him on here. Thanks for stopping in, Trevor.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Rick.
Yeah. So basically what I wanted to do is kind of just get to know you a little bit better. I've watched some of the videos. I read through some of the bio, and I am kind of intrigued. I want to know, like, you know, what exactly kind of training, how deep you go into it. I see you got a passion for it, and basically I just want to, you know, see what we can bring to the viewers out there tonight and see if they have any questions. So guys, like I mentioned, if you have questions for Trevor, put them in all capital letters. That way, you know, we can find it and see it. I know everyone likes to chit chat, so by all means, we want you guys to be a part of it too. So, so anyhow, getting back to it, I mean, your bio said you've been doing it for about 15 years. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do there at Emerson.
Awesome. Thanks, Rick. Well, yeah, I've been in refrigeration since 2004, I guess. That's when I first started. I didn't know what refrigeration was before that. No, nobody, I'm from Cape Breton, Nova Scotia originally. So it's a little island on the east coast of Canada. And we didn't have much for trades in our high schools. But back in 2003, 2004, after I went to university, I met a guy, and I was looking to go back to take something else. And he was into refrigeration, or getting into refrigeration. And I said, "What's that? You know, what's refrigeration?" And then he explained that, you know, you go to a grocery store and you buy food there, you know, your milk is cold and your ice cream's cold. I'm like, yeah, well, you go and you fix that stuff. I'm like, oh, well, that sounds okay. And then he was like, I'm like, well, what can you make doing refrigeration? He was like $50 an hour. And then my chin dropped. I'm like, $50 an hour? And then I'm like, is it a job that you can just travel around the world? Like, can you travel? Because I love traveling. And at that point, I wanted to travel, but I had a business diploma and degree. You can't really travel when you just got no experience and you finish university. He was like, yeah, you need refrigeration anywhere in the world and air conditioning. So I'm like, wow, I signed up that day.
Yeah.
And so from there, I did like a pre-apprenticeship. So I did 1 year HVAC course, got a gas license, got an oil burning license. And then from there, I just started getting into refrigeration because I really like the refrigeration side of it. And traveled all around Canada, working out of Western Canada for a long time. Got what we call here in Canada a Red Seal. So it's a journeyman certificate. It takes, depending on where you're at in Canada, it takes either 3 to 5 years. But more and more, it's close to the 5-year mark to get it. So I went to Western Canada, went to one of the top schools there, and took refrigeration, got my Red Seal, and ever since then, I've been doing refrigeration. So I worked in Australia doing refrigeration. I've done like everywhere in Canada doing refrigeration, and I really like it. Just to tell you, I really enjoy it. And about 2014, I started having kids, and I was working at a supermarket company because my background is in supermarket refrigeration, but I've done industrial gas fitting. I've worked in industrial air conditioning, lots of heat pumps, data center. So I got, I guess, a jack of all trades. But at the end of the day, my true passion is refrigeration. I was working with a great company here in Ontario called Nealon's Refrigeration, a great team, great group of people. But I was still in supermarket refrigeration. Is a very demanding job. Like I've done the AC, I've done the HVAC, depending if it's critical environment, you know, you can usually wait for cooling to tomorrow or the next day. But when you're talking about $1 million worth of food products starting to warm up, you got to be there to fix that stuff. And so I was working the long hours, non-calls and stuff, and I was having little kids, and I'm like, I don't really want to, be 14 hours a day away. So opportunity came up at Emerson here in Brantford, Ontario, where I'm actually in our facility. It's way different. We've definitely done a lot of work in the last 6 years in here. And I'm actually going to take a tour tonight to show everyone kind of what I do here and what it looks like. But yeah, nice. About 2014, I started here at Emerson as a contractor business development manager. And really what that was is that I would go out and talk with contractors about Emerson solutions, talk about refrigeration, train their technicians, train their sales guys, and just to show them what Emerson has to offer, because Emerson is one of the largest refrigeration and HVAC manufacturers in the world. We have over 200 locations globally, and if we're not the top one, we're at least we have to be in the top 3 for sure, because we make everything from TX valves, system components, oil, compressors, controllers, you name it, we make it. Temperature probes, sensors. And when you have a big organization like that, it's hard for contractors to know everything that you have, so my job, and we still have a great business development team here, is to go out and just talk about the different solutions and see if it works for customers, and I did that for about 3 years at Emerson. And then I really started liking training. So training the technicians, training the sales guys, training the OEMs, which is original manufacturer equipment, so manufacturers. So I really was enjoying that. And then I talked with my manager, and I'm like, I really got a good feeling about if we start a training division here in Canada. And he said, that's a great idea. And about 2017, I started as HVAC and refrigeration training development specialist. That's what they call me now. And my job now here is to help train the industry. And what I love about Emerson and what's great about them, here in Canada, they give me all the support I need to help our customers. And that's what I love. Like when I work with my team here, we come up with ideas on how to train or how I want to go to market, like going to colleges and trade schools. I do that all the time. I do trainings for that all the time. They're like, this is awesome. Going out and helping at different events, networking events. Like there's a great one in the US that I go to every year is HVAC Excellence. So it's like training all the teachers and educators and instructors. And I go down there and they're like, yeah, no problem, Trevor, go down there, and help out. And they really, really support me in helping the industry grow. And that's really what I love. My mission right now is to help motivate, help educate, and help inspire technicians and refrigeration professionals, from engineers to salespeople, to project managers, to business owners. And I just have a huge passion for refrigeration.
Wow. That is an inspiring story.
Definitely is.
Starting out at the bottom and working your way up through the industries, like repair or working in the field like you were, to where you're at now. I mean, that's a good thing about this trade is, anybody can get into it. And if they apply themselves, you don't just have to be a service tech. You can move up and get into really good positions like you're in now. So that is an inspiring story. I enjoyed listening to that.
Thank you.
So do you work in the lab and stuff too, where they tear everything down and check them out and things like that?
Sorry, say that again, Rick?
I know, like around here we have one in Ohio, and so I've watched how they test the compressors, purposely slug them, purposely try to destroy them, cut them down, stuff like that. A lab, basically. Do you guys do that at your location too?
Well, they do more of the testing down here. We have, and I'll take you into an inspection station. So in a shop where we'll power the compressors up, we'll test them, then we'll inspect them to see what caused the failure of the compressor. And one of my main trainings is Copeland training. So I do 1, 2, 3 day Copeland trainings where I'll take a group of technicians in and we'll spend a whole day learning about compressors, tearing them down, cutting them open, just really getting the understanding of a compressor. And that's my funnest class that I do. I do lots of other ones from electronics and controls and CO2. This is actually a CO2 trainer that's behind me. I do lots of CO2 training. And just love that Copeland training, because I see when the technicians leave here, guys, girls, doesn't matter. When they leave here, they at least leave with one good tip that I can give them, right? So, and they're always smiling, and they
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. I mean, if I was going to work for a different company, I mean, it sounds like they've got a lot of things to offer. So if you didn't like one thing that, you know, you were doing, you could switch into multiple different facets. And that sounds like an awesome place to work at.
Yeah, I've been having a lot of fun. And it's a huge organization that there's tons of opportunity. So if I wanted to go in lots of different directions, people ask me, is Emerson hiring? And every time I send our career form, there's like 800 jobs globally. Jeez. So there's lots of work, right? So it's.
Now, I have a question. How did you move from not even knowing what refrigeration was to where you're at now? I mean, obviously there was some schooling along the way.
Oh,
Am I right?
I did a lot of schooling. So when I came out of high school, to be honest, it was like, you have to go to university. You have to go to college or you won't get a job. That's what I was told. I went to a guidance counselor. That's what they told me. You need to go to university or you will never get a job, Trevor. Like, you can't get a job today. And this was in 98, 99. I can't remember what year now. But they're like, you got to go to college. You got to go to university. And so that's what I did. I went and I spent $40,000 on this university course, and then went into college and got this business diploma, doing a bit of marketing and finance and just a general business. Spent about 40 grand. And when I was done there, I was making $14 an hour, $15 an hour in an office, because you start at the bottom. So I was actually going back to school because I knew I wanted to travel. And you can't just get say a BA and all of a sudden you can just start traveling, get a job wherever you want. So I went back, and that's why I went back to school. And then I met this guy that told me about refrigeration. And because I was actually, to be honest with you, I was going to go be a bartender, because I knew you could go be a bartender anywhere and you can get a job. There's bartenders everywhere in the world. And that day I switched from being a bartender to a refrigeration mechanic. And that was the best decision of my life.
Awesome.
Sounds very similar. The same brainwashing that is still going on today, I think, which is the reason why we're having a hard time getting technicians, because the schools make the kids believe that you need to go in debt $100,000 so that you can get out and make, $40,000 to $60,000 a year and pay on that school debt for the next 30 years. Yet, obviously, as we both know, we are doing anything we can to train the guys coming into the field just to get someone in the door so that we can get them in the field. And it's not true. I mean, in the intelligence level, to be a service person of any sort is not, that low class. I truly believe they brainwashed you into believing that you were just some sort of grease monkey, knuckle dragon, whatever. And it's bit us in the butt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've made multiple six-figure years, up to almost 200K. So this trade you can make, and that was on the tools. And this trade, you can make more money than lawyers and doctors or whatever they're trying to tell you to go be. But it's really up to the technician too. If you don't want to work, if you don't want to learn, if you don't want to do it, it's like any job, you're not going to go anywhere. But if you're consistent, persistent, and you try hard and you want to be the best and you want to master it, you could be running multi-million-dollar companies. And I got buddies that run and own companies that have crews between 50 and 100 guys. So you can do whatever you want. And the harder you want to work when you're younger and when you first get in, it pays off in the long run, for sure. And this is what I tell all the younger guys, technicians: work hard now, because it's way harder when you have kids. You have 3 or 4 kids. You don't want to be putting 80-hour weeks in.
Yep.
And another big thing is I tell a lot of apprentices, be willing to move. Be willing to follow the work, because that's what I did. And when you're willing to change roles within the trade, willing to move around, you make your own paycheck. Mm-hmm. Because good technicians, I could call up the biggest and best contractors in North America, and if you're a kick-ass technician, they'll hire you. Doesn't even matter if they're not fully worked. They want the best technicians, and they'll pay for them.
They'll make a spot.
100%. But if you're not willing
that's
to
what
work,
we say all the time. We're always hiring.
Yeah.
Yep.
So to get people in the trade, I've been working real hard the last few years trying to figure out how to just motivate younger people to even look at the industries. And I know there's lots of people out there, but I think we need to do a better job of it. Our industry in general, like technicians alone, should be proud to be a mechanic. This job is very fulfilling,
Yeah,
and
it
for
is.
me anyway. And if you don't want it, it's like any job. If you don't want it to be fulfilling, you don't have to be. You're just doing it maybe for a paycheck. And if you don't like it, go find another job. If you don't like doing refrigeration, you can go find another job. But I have a true passion for it. I love helping people. Like I said, I love mentoring people. I love teaching them, educating them, and really bringing them to the next level in their career. If I can do that, man, I'm happy.
Well, speaking of inspiring younger people and people new to the trade, I see you mostly on Facebook with your Facebook videos, and they're
Thanks.
quite good. I've watched quite a few of them. Could you tell us more about what you're presenting or explaining or doing in your Facebook videos?
Yeah, awesome. So my main platform is LinkedIn, and I do put some on Facebook. But really, what I'm trying to do is just get out some technical tips, some soft skills, some technical skills, in a few 2 to 5 minute videos, just to share that knowledge. Because I've even seen, I was in the field up until 2014, and even at that point, that's 10 years of doing refrigeration, I was still a novice, and I worked at many different companies, but there's lots of things I didn't know. Like, I didn't understand compressors like I know compressors now. Like I even after 10 years, there was so much that I didn't know about compressors that I'm trying to help others. I know I've seen guys 20 years here, and they're some of the best technicians. But at the end of the day, when I say, have you ever seen a compressor manual from Copeland? And they're like, no, I haven't really seen one. We have compressor manuals for almost all our compressors. Wow. So any compressor you work on, and this might be new to some of you, and don't be ashamed if you don't know, because I didn't know. And I may have seen them before I started at Emerson, but the last 6 years breathing Copeland day in, day out, or compressors in general, because I researched all the compressor manufacturers, Bitzer, Durain, Danfoss. I look at them all. You know what I mean? Because if I want to be the best at sharing my knowledge with technicians, I need to know all of it. Because I want to help them be the best technician that they can. So,
and you guys have the Copeland app as well.
Copeland Mobile. Everybody should have Copeland Mobile.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Troubleshoot. You got it?
Yeah, I've got it on my phone, and then I also had some of the big thick books, which I think is everything that's in the app too. So there's really no reason for the book anymore. But that's how I find my amperages and things like that. The MCCA, that's one of them that, for me, they like when they're the different amperages and stuff, they have the MCCA and a few other different amp ratings in there, and they say one's for the breaker, one's for that. But could you go into that a little bit better as far as the amp draw, as far as like your, obviously the locked rotor amps and stuff like that, but far as what's the maximum running load amps, which generally they don't say that anymore on the compressors like they used to, but in that app I noticed you can find it, but there's a couple different derated numbers. Which one should I look at for the maximum rated amps that it should be running at under full load?
That's a great question, and it depends. Because I was taught, and this is how I was taught, is like, yeah, you look at the LRA or the RLA, which is rated load amps, not running load amps for compressors, and you divide that by 5 or 6, and that should be your amperage. Well, that's not the case. You actually need to put your discharge, your suction, your voltage in there, and it'll tell you what those amps at those design conditions, because your amps should be different depending on where that compressor is in its operation envelope. And I do have a training on it, so I will send you the link so you can send it to all the subscribers from a technician's point of view, how I would be using it in the field. But MCC is called maximum continuous current, would be the last one you'd see in the electrical section there. And that is when the internal protector will trip.
Okay.
Okay, so if it says, say, 31 amps MCC, well, when you hit 31 amps and the compressor's running at 31 amps, just say you have really low voltage or something, it's going to trip when it hits 31. Will it hit right when it hits 31? No, it may take a second or 2 seconds or 3 seconds, but that 31 is that maximum continuous current.
Gotcha. Because I know they have one, it's at like a 0.35 multiplier or something like that, and then another multiplier, and I kind of wasn't.
There's a 1.4 and then a 1.5, and one is for sizing the breaker and the contactors and the breakers and wires. I'll have to look it up. I don't remember off the top of my head.
It's kind of confusing, yeah.
But the best thing is to go into the app and check it out, because if you own your own business and you're sizing equipment, you need to know that you have the right contactor size or the right breaker size.
Yeah, because I'm working on a unit right now, which is really kind of strange to me. It's a Canadian unit, Dectron. It was an R22 unit. It's 1998 was when it was built. They converted one stage over to 407C, so they had to take out the, I think they were the train compressors or something like that. We went to scroll, and I just did a conversion to put in new coax coils, new TXVs, 2 new compressors, and got it all piped up. And what I'm having issues with now is discharge temperature. They want at least 160 minimum discharge, obviously under 225 for max. But it's really odd, when you're looking at your regular pressures and temperature charts and stuff like that, you look like it would be good, but my discharge is low. They focused on the discharge temperature over the superheat of the valve. They say, when you've got this discharge temperature, your superheat's going to be all right. And it's like, this is so weird. And, it's an old unit. So since everything's kind of mismatched and we've did all these repairs to get it going, because these were $40,000+ repairs, yet to replace the unit, you're talking $350,000. Yeah. So, they're under a tight budget because of all, especially with all this stuff going on now, memberships and stuff are down. And so I'm fighting this right now. So I purposely drove my head pressure up when it's running in AC mode because it's using the coax coils. Well, because we went 5 ton over on the coax coils, my head pressure is a little lower, but we're still running at 100-degree saturation on discharge. So you would think that's pretty good or whatever. But, when we're running dehumidification mode, we're running up there around like, say, 325, 330. Now, this is 407C. And, we're holding in there at the 160, 170-ish area, so we're hitting discharge there, but we're right at the trip point where the old R22 limits were at 350, and we're going to obviously have to step it up to about 375, but, going higher head pressure don't sound like a good idea. I know that, discharge temperature is not a lot of people usually talk about that, but the more, as I get more involved, it is a huge thing in your testing purposes. Was there a reason why they're going so deep over the with the discharge temperature on this unit? Are you pretty familiar with that, or can you give me some insight?
So your best point would be in the Copeland app again. You can go into performance and go into dynamic performance, and then you put your conditions you're running at there, and it should tell you what that discharge temperature should be. Okay, I don't know why they're doing that as a manufacturer using our equipment, and I've seen lots of different things done. But what you can do is go check the full performance as well as dynamic performance in Copeland Mobile, and it'll give you put in your pressures that you're running on 407C, and it'll tell you what you should be running at for temperature. I always discharge temperature for any system needs to be checked, and I'm not sure anytime you go out, I'll give you the checks that you need to do right now. I know I'll get a little off topic. You need to do your suction pressure, suction temperature, discharge pressure, discharge temperature. TD of your condenser, your approach if you're doing air conditioning, your subcooling, your condenser out temperature, your TX valve inlet temperature, temperature across your filter dryer, your TD across your evaporator, your superheat at your evaporator, your superheat at your compressor. And these are minimum checks that you need to do anytime. Right when you do your first commission, you should be doing that, writing that down, putting that with a piece of equipment.
Which
so
is always,
the next guy comes back, you have all that information.
And also, these are questions that are going to be asked anytime you call any technical support. So for the new guys out there, get used to checking all of these things.
Which is always kind of interesting when you read through, like for the superheat, because I mean, you know, when you're setting up your valve, say on like a cooler, we usually shoot somewhere around the 8 to 10 mark, and then for freezer somewhere around 6 to 8. But if you have a short run where it's only 4 feet away and you don't have any additional heat being gained, it says in your manual you have to have a minimum of 20 degrees superheat at the compressor. So does that from what I read, it overrides the TXV. So
nothing overrides the TXV.
So go ahead and set the superheat at the TXV.
You don't ever set the TXV up for compressor superheat. So depending on the compressor, depending on the refrigerant, will depend on what the superheat is. Copeland likes to see 20 degrees superheat. That's what we like. But on a supermarket rack, for example, you might be getting 30 or 40 degrees superheat, 45. On what you're talking about, a small little cooler where you have your TXV 3 feet away and you got it set for 8 degrees superheat, you're not going to pick up 12 degrees superheat. What we want to make sure that you never flood back. That's the thing through all loads. So what you want to check is that superheat when the compressor is on doing a hot pull down after a defrost, doing all the cycles. So if you check it and it never floods through all those points, you're fine. But if all of a sudden you are flooding back at one of those things, there's something else going on. What's going on with the system? Is the evaporator sized properly, or the TX valve sized properly, or the cap tube? You know, there's a lot of different things you need to check. But through all those conditions, you should never flood back to the compressor, and that's 0 degrees superheat.
So, so do you disagree with what I read, or did I misread it? Because it said a minimum, meaning they want no less than, if I'm understanding this correctly, than 20. Which, you know, you can't know what it's going to be like in the middle of winter versus right now in the summer, or vice versa.
So depending on the compressor, some will say that is a minimum. So what you would need is most likely have accumulator on that system. Okay. I'm not sure what AE bulletin is, which one you're talking about. If is it a can? Is it a hermetic one?
It's probably a regular hermetic one. I see it a lot on the bone condensers. So that's where I see it most in their startup manuals. That's where I've seen it over and over and over again.
Okay. Yeah. So, I do tons of Copeland training. I like to see 20, but you don't see it, especially on chillers. You know, you got a flat plate heat exchanger. You got your TX valve there, and that compressor is only 4 feet or 3 feet away. You're not going to pick up that much superheat. What we want to make sure is you do not flood back. And if you have potential that flood back may happen, you need an add accumulator.
Okay. And that's what I've seen our guys do before. I mean, I've done it, HVAC now 26 years, but the last coming on my 7th year, this place I'm at, we mainly we do everything, but we do a lot of refrigeration, more than I've ever done before. So I've learned a lot in the last 6 years area, which is a lot of the reason why I do my videos that I do, is to kind of, help other people with the things that I struggled with, the questions that I had that either I didn't want to ask, couldn't get straight answers on, things like that. That's a lot of times the reason why I show what I show in my videos. And, so that's why I was asking on that, because a lot of it's been, you think you're good until you start jumping into other facets of the field. There's so much to learn. You'll never learn it all. Oh, look at that. Got a visitor.
So what you need to do is find what application engineering bulletin it is. So another app that you need to have, every technician needs to have, is called Emerson Application Engineering Bulletin. And that's the manuals for all Copeland compressors. So for example, behind here, I got this here is a CO2 compressor. This is our 4MTLS. You need a minimum of not a 10K, which is 18 degrees superheat at all times. Where the other ones, I say, if you're running at 15 degrees superheat on our HFC compressors, that's fine. But this one here, you need a minimum of 18. This is our ZO scroll. This is a CO2 scroll, low temp, subcritical. You need 36 degrees superheat on this one, because CO2 is what it is. The way it mixes with POE oil, it's very. It can make the oil very enriched. You have enriched with refrigerant oil going back, and you can dilute and wear the bearings out. So I'll have to check that AE bulletin out. Lots of them come out new. I don't know if these are older ones, but
this is old. I'll send you a link, or I'll look it up here maybe when I get done. I've got it out in my van. Sure. But I was just kind of curious on it, 'cause sometimes I misunderstand the way it's read. So it's the reason why I asked her, because she's smarter than me on that stuff. But yeah. She's
'Cause
like,
that
no,
could
it's a
be
minimum.
bone, or that manufacturer might want to see that, but what is it? What does Copeland say? Because I follow whatever Copeland says.
I thought they said
because they're doing
the compressor
testing.
manufacturer. I thought they even referenced that Copeland requires a minimum of 20. And I've seen it. Granted, that's mainly what we sell is bone, or So I mean, that's what I've seen over and over again. So that's our main brand that I've seen it the most.
Okay. Yeah. So bone, like once again, you need to go back to the application engineering bulletin, because I see it all the time that manufacturers want to have a bit safer, because that'll help their compressor last longer if you're not getting in down to 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Because what will happen is that when you're not there and all of a sudden the end user leaves the door open, or they open it up and they start washing out the coil and they freeze the coil up and the solenoid is not closed, or things like that. So and those OEMs and those manufacturers, they're maybe doing it on the caution side. But I highly recommend get into the Copeland manual and see what they say. And if it says 20 minimum, well, that's what I would be going by. And if you can't keep it, accumulator should be put in the system.
Okay.
What was the name of that app again where you found the manuals?
Application engineering bulletin. So if you look up Emerson AE bulletins, and there's hundreds of them.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, because I mean, now you guys technically, is Emerson with Sporlan too? Are you guys together? No, it's separate. Okay.
So Sporlan is owned by Parker, and great manufacturers. They make lots of different types of valves. So our company that makes TX valves and electronic valves would be White Rogers. So if you ever heard of White Rogers before, they do all our filter dryers, our system protectors like oil separators, accumulators. They take care of all that stuff. So I'm actually doing in 2 weeks, I think 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I'm going to be doing TXV training. So troubleshooting and just to understand the TX valve. So I'll be doing that in a couple weeks.
Now, who is it you are training?
Technicians, or whoever wants to watch, really. But it's
now,
technical
this is
training.
where?
These ones. So this is on. Okay. This will be on I've started something back in October called Contractor Toolbox Talks. And so what I started to do with this is, because I know there's a need, and I've done day trainings and I have 4-hour trainings, 6-hour trainings, but technicians don't have a lot of time. You know what I mean? And there's some contractors that don't give their technicians enough training time. I believe every week there should be at least some sort of training for the technicians.
And how do technicians find your training? Is this through companies? Are the companies making it available to their technicians, or can a guy like me just log on somewhere and come join this? And
for sure,
learn?
I'm making it free for it. What's great about Emerson is like they want me to get as much great information out. So yeah, it's called Contractor Toolbox Talk, and it's free. Awesome. And all you have to do is register and sign up. And it'll be in a couple weeks.
All right. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, because I mean, it benefits them.
I usually put them on LinkedIn and Facebook, all my trainings, but they're all there and they're hosted there. So I've been doing them since October. So like I got a Copeland mobile one. I got a digital compressor one. I know, Rick, you were talking about digital compressor. I got a how to troubleshoot compressors with teardown. So I'm doing a live teardown where I'm pulling apart the semi-hermetic and the scroll and stuff like that.
Awesome.
Just so you can kind of get the hands-on and the practical look. I know it's not the same, it's never the same as being in the lab, but I love, sharing that knowledge. That's why I got an awesome gig here at Emerson. So I love it.
Hell yeah.
Because I mean, like I've always heard you guys get back a lot of parts that are supposedly bad that aren't bad because they weren't properly diagnosed. They didn't wait for it to cool down. They condemned it, said open windings, whatever the case. I've heard that. So that costs you guys a lot of money. So training, I would figure, would be their best interest to keep those kind of errors down.
Yeah. So I've done, I work with my team here. Well, not my team, Emerson's team here. Bruce Bosnell, he's one of our lead special inspection guys, and I learned so much from this guy. So I've tore down, since I've been at Emerson, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of compressors. And I'm not just from doing the trainings, right? Because I like showing the guys, and I learned over the last 6 years, and I learn every time I do a training. That's what I love about doing training. I'm learning with the technicians at the same time. But yeah, so we see on probably about 30% of compressors that come back, there's There's nothing wrong with them. Like we can put them on the bench and start them up, and we could send them back out to the contractor and they'd work. I've seen 8Ds come here. 8Ds is a massive air conditioning compressor. We're talking thousands, probably tens of thousands of dollars. I don't even know what they cost because I don't deal with pricing, but it costs a lot of money for everybody, not only us, but for the end users, for the contractors, for the wholesalers. And one of the things that I'm trying to do is just, it has nothing to do with the cost for me. It's to help the guy or the girl feel confident when they leave that job site. That's what I strive to help, because I know there was a lot of times where I wasn't confident when I left the job site and I wasn't sure, did I fix that problem or did I not fix that problem? And that stressed me out a lot because I wanted to make sure I knew the problem, and I didn't know them all the time. But over the years, after I got more experience, I dug a little deeper. If I didn't know it, I'd call someone and ask. The biggest thing I'll tell every technician right now, talk to someone about it. Ask someone new, go on social media and ask. And yes, social media is not always the best place because people can be very negative, but there's lots of people that want to help out there. There's lots of good groups online that want to help. And yes, there's going to be some negative people, but don't just try just to figure it out yourself, because the answers are already out there. Somebody has already seen that.
Yeah.
So just ask for help. Don't be scared. Ask for help.
Don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah.
I think a lot of guys in this industry, don't want to ask questions because they feel like they're going to get put down for it.
But when you screw up and it costs a lot of money, it's better to find out now in advance. So
yeah, but that's still, guys.
And I'll tell
every don't want to ask.
Yeah, every technician now, if you ask someone and they're like give you a hard time, they call you stupid or whatever, don't ask that person again. There's hundreds of other technicians that want to help out there.
Absolutely.
Or service managers or owners. Because the owner, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, he wants that technician not to have callbacks. The biggest thing that's going on in our industry is callbacks. That is costing so much money.
Yeah.
And
I have a question. How do you test these compressors when they come back to you? When you put them on the bench, are you hooking them to a system of some sort, or are you hooking them to some sort of measurement device that, would mock a system, or what are you doing with them?
In the U.S., so back in up until 2009, we used to remanufacture compressors in Canada, kind of like not the Sydney plant, but our Rushfield plant that does semi-hermetic. So we would remanufacture, not rebuild, but remanufacture to the original specs here in Canada. But we stopped that back in 2009 when there was a downturn. The U.S. pulled out. So we really revamped in the training and stuff. But when we do testing here, all we do, we don't put the oil through and the pressure through it anymore. We just do electrical test, make sure it pumps and runs, and then we do full inspection, full tear down report. So if you put a compressor on an electrical bench and you start it up and she just runs, usually that compressor is not a failed compressor.
Gotcha.
And then if we pull it apart and we see all the pistons are in there, or the scroll set's fine and the bearings are all good, that's a good compressor. And we'll tell you there's nothing wrong with the compressor. And what I like about our inspection report and the team here is that they'll tell you exactly what caused the failure. Oh, flood back, or it's overheating, or whatever. It could be multiple issues. That's the thing. Yeah. And what I'm seeing more and more of, or seeing a lot of, is that people are just pulling out compressors and not figuring out what caused the failure.
Ship it back.
Now, when you guys do your electrical test, I mean, generally they use, is it hot pot or high pot test versus like a Megger?
So we do a high pot test, and high pots, you check the leakage of it, of the electrical, and we use high pot.
That's an expensive tool,
we check it
ain't it?
actually on a bench. We actually have I'll show you when we go around and we take a look at it. I'll show you our electrical section, and we got a scroll cutter here. We can cut up to a certain size, but I highly recommend technicians starting to tear apart the compressors. We want you to tear apart the compressors. Semi-hermetic, take it apart, pull the heads off, pull the pumps off, look, and it doesn't take long to do this stuff, and because you'll learn from it. Each time you do it more and more, you're going to learn more and more. And you'll see it, and over and over and over and over and over again, you'll be like, okay, this is a flood back. Okay, this is flood at starts. Okay, this is slugging. This is so on and so forth.
I would like to be able to be more sure on like whether to replace the valve head or the whole compressor, because a lot of times, I've seen where the head's been changed and put new valves in it, but yet it still don't pump. It's still inefficient. It ain't quite at full capacity. Is there a good way to do that without wasting a lot of time and money?
Yeah, so the big one would be a wrist pin check. So if it's a semi-hermetic, and most likely if you got because usually it's your discharge that's blown, so it took a slug and it busted your discharge, and then what happens, you have discharge pressure pushing down on the piston as it's pumping. And so what happens there, you can't get oil up in the wrist pin that holds the piston onto the rod. So as it's pumping, you don't get oil up in there, so it starts to wear and wears and wears. So what you need to do is a wrist pin check. And if you do a wrist pin check and it drops, like the piston drops, then you got to change the whole compressor. Just changing the valve plate's not going to work.
So how do you do that? You take it top dead center, take it all the way to the bottom stroke. How do you do that?
Yeah, great question. So you take it all the top dead center, turn it over a little bit, and just push on the piston. So you got to take the pump off, the oil pump off, turn it up, and then push on the piston. And if it drops or it drops down, it goes clunk. It's usually a wrist pin wear issue. So
gravity is causing it to fall down. You're trying to push it back up, so you're trying to get the play from top to bottom, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you go and do, like I got a couple semi-hermetic training videos in this contractor toolbox shop, I show exactly how to do that check.
I've seen quite a few people in the area here, the notes area and stuff, and quite a few of them are downloading the app that you're talking about. And Laura posted a direct link to the toolbox thing, which is awesome information. I think that guys can, because I mean that's a whole thing here. Is I was really hoping to get a wealth of knowledge, and so far you're definitely doing a great job. That's what I was hoping for, because as far as I know, we're one of the few that's ever gotten a chance to interview you. You said you've never done a show of your test facility there online or whatever. Is that correct?
So I haven't. I've done lots of podcasts and video podcasts, but I actually haven't done a tour of our facility. So I thought maybe that's what we'll do this evening. That's why I came into my office on a Sunday evening.
And I appreciate you coming in on a Sunday night. I know your time is valuable. I really appreciate you coming in and stuff. So I know we got, somewhere 50, 60 people that's been hanging in there that, you never know who's watching, but I have people all over the world that tend to watch the videos and stuff. So, I mean, eventually they'll get to it. It may not be all at once right now, but they're going to get to it. And that's, I think quite a few of them are going to be playing back through here and stuff and learning some interesting information.
Okay. So I'm going to do my best to keep it as steady as possible. So
you need to switch
this here, we'll just start right here. This here is called my CO2 training area. So this here is a CO2 transcritical booster trainer. So I do CO2 training on there. So a lot of regulations coming into play. So I did last week. I spent 2 days doing videos for technicians. I'm going to be launching a CO2 series of trainings to help technicians out understanding how to troubleshoot and understand CO2. So I got a couple boxes back there. I got a multi case there, and that's connected to a CO2 cascade system right here. This is built by a company here in Canada called KeepRight. So the lower side where you see the white installation down there, that's a CO2 compressor. So, and the top have refrigerant 448 in it. So that's an N40 Honeywell refrigerant. And I got a variable speed drive on it, as well as a digital compressor. First compressor digital, got an E2 on there. And so those ones control the two boxes over there, and then that 5 deck.
Nice.
Any questions so far?
I have not done anything with the CO2. I mean, the compression ratio is huge on those, isn't it?
No, they're very small, the compression ratio. High pressure, but very small compression ratio.
Really? So it's basically the discharge and suction both are really both high then, correct?
So, for example, if you're talking about this subcritical one here that we'll talk about, that runs about 400 discharge and 200 suction, we'll say.
On CO2?
Yeah, this is
I thought CO2 ran in the thousands of pounds area.
That is for transcritical. So that would be this system over here. So you could see on a very hot day, it could be running at 1,300 PSI discharge and 500, say, suction. So, less than 3 to 1.
Wow. Yeah, because, I mean, I've never seen it. I've only heard about it. But, I mean, far as efficiency, how does that compare to, say, R290? They say that's a really efficient refrigerant, even though I don't, particularly love it. There ain't no getting away from it. So,
yeah, Well, it all depends, you know. So CO2 can be very efficient if you add certain can I say? Certain strategies to it, like parallel compression, ejectors, adiabatic cooling. And if you're running the system in subcritical, CO2 is very efficient. And it's a very efficient refrigerant. Is more efficient than synthetic refrigerants. Like you get more BTUs per pound with CO2.
But what is subcritical? I guess I'm going to show my ignorance here.
That's okay. That's perfect. Subcritical is anytime CO2 is running below 87.8. So the ambient, if it's below 87.8 outdoor temperature, you'll be into subcritical mode.
So what exactly does that mean? Is it changing some sort of state or what?
Yeah, it definitely does. Here, I'll show you a quick. Sorry, I'm moving around. So here's I got a bunch of videos on Facebook and LinkedIn. You can check it out. But right here's the critical point of CO2. When you're above here, you're in the transcritical zone. This is supercritical fluid. There's no pressure temperature relationship. Here's your enthalpy diagram again. When you're down in this zone, you're subcritical.
And that's at atmospheric pressure or under what pressure? Because obviously pressure changes those.
So you
readings.
could be at 900 psi, we'll say 900 psi, and 400 psi, depending. It all depends once again on the ambient, on the conditions, the warm ambient strategies we call them. So let's walk over here. Here's another system that I built. I love this little one here. This is with a Copeland outdoor refrigeration condensing unit. One of the most efficient units. This was ahead of its time. Used to be called the XJ. Now it's called the X line, XFAL, XFAM. And you can get them with digital compressors inside them now. So I built this unit up with our electronic valves. So we got some Alco and White Roger product. Here's a site supervisor. I know you were mentioning stuff about site supervisor earlier. Here's a White Rogers thermostat. These are amazing thermostat, multiple voltages. So if you know what I mean, like it's nice to have one temperature controller in your truck that does all the voltages, and you don't have to carry so many temperature probes. And then this is an electronic valve controller. So we got a cool little setup up here. Top one's an electronic valve, and the bottom one's a TX valve. And I'm running 449 in there. So this is XP40, I think. It's more refrigerant. So a lot of fun. Do a lot of training. I love hands-on training. And that's what I mostly do. Here's a bunch of trainers that I have. I recommend if anybody is a contractor out there or owns a contractor business, you should look into a trainer like this to train your guys once a month. These are so much fun to teach guys on how to charge, how to evacuate, how to, electrically troubleshoot. They're not very expensive. I can send you the link. And you can even make them yourself. To me, it doesn't really matter what you're using, but technicians need to learn hands-on. They need to touch, they need to feel. I can do as much training online as one until they're touching it and feeling it in the lab. That's really when they get the good feeling.
Yeah, the aha moment.
Absolutely.
So I got 4 furnaces in here because White Rogers sells gas valves, ignition boards. Are probably, they probably sell some of the most in North America on gas valves. It's Honeywell and White Rogers that are the 2 biggest players in North America. So right here, I'll take technicians in. We'll do like subcooling, superheat approach. We'll check all the stuff, show them I just got a new thermostat here from White Rogers. Actually, I haven't installed it, I don't think yet. I don't know if I should popping this out. Only one hand. So right down there, I'm sorry about that, everybody. So I'm going to install this in a minute, in the next couple weeks. But this is this new shore switch. I don't know if you heard about it.
I've seen the original one.
24 volts, 120 volts, 208, and 240 volt contactor. 5-year warranty on it. And then it does compressor protection. Super cool. If I was in the field, doing AC, a residential for sure. And this does refrigeration as well. 5-year warranty. You pay a little bit more money for it than your standard $13 contactor. But this here will, it's definitely a game changer.
Awesome. That is very cool. Now, I got a question for you, Trevor, from the chat here.
Yeah.
Gasman asks, will CO2 ever be in residential?
Well, CO2 is in residential already, not here in North America, but there's 10,000 heat pumps built with CO2 in Japan.
All right.
So you're going to see different types of natural refrigerants in residential at some point.
All right.
Well, you already see it in domestic fridges, right? Because you got R600 or butane, right? That's. But here's some trainers I build. So these are CoreSense. So these are compressor electronics. They were called CoreSense. They're now compressor electronics. Not enough technicians know how these work.
Yeah, I don't understand what's so special about it, because it just sounds like it's an internal thermistor that just basically opens a circuit and shuts it down. And I don't understand what's so great, because that compressor I changed has it in it.
Oh, okay. So which one? I bet you it was this one right here.
Yeah.
Well,
it doesn't have the dip switches on it, but it looks just like that.
Well, no, then it's something else.
Maybe it did have the dip switches. I don't remember. They had a 24 volt version of it and 100 or 240 volt version of it. They sent both of them.
Oh, no, I'm sorry about that. It's hard to do this here. Sorry, everyone out there. So it could be a different. It could be just a motor protector module, the Carwin module, which is different than this one, because that one just does motor protector. This does reverse phase, missing phase, short cycling, high temp, you name it. Like, this does more than just motor protector. And then you can log into this and see how many times that compressor start, how many hours it's been running. Like, there's so much cool information in this. This one here. Well, if you look at the side, and it's hard to see on it, but it says this one here does discharge temp, system trip, short cycle, lock rotor, open circuit, missing phase, reverse phase, low voltage, lost communication, DLT.
Yeah, that one there I've seen on the Aeon units, I believe, but the one to the right was the one I was kind of looking at. It just goes inside the little. Yeah, and you're saying that one can be logged in too, also?
Oh yeah. There's a 40-page manual on that. So if you don't think there's a lot of information on
that's a little. I think it's got more terminals on it. Mine had 4 terminals at the bottom, and I don't think it had the dip switches. So maybe it was just nothing more than because it looked like it went to a thermistor, and that was it.
Yeah, so that would be just probably the motor protector one.
Okay.
But you can see, like, this one does digital compressor. This one's on all our semi-hermetics. So any semi-hermetic that you would get on a new piece of equipment would be this CoreSense protection. But, you would have seen Syntronic before for the oil protection, but this does it all. Oil pressure, motor overheating, discharge temperature, current sensor failure, missing phase, low voltage, voltage imbalance. Super cool.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
You
got the dream job over there. Look at this.
So there's some gas boosters, but here's our lab here. So this is where they do all the inspections, tear downs. There's a scroll cutter right there, the green thing. So we'll put that in there and cut the scroll open. Here's the electrical panel tester that will test the voltages on it. Up there is our high pot test. This up there. So it's just pretty cool. I got a banner back there because I do trainings in here, live trainings. Got another little simulator there that I play around with. Like, here's a gas scroll booster. So we're in so many cool things.
Heck yeah. I'd love to be a compressor tester at Emerson. That would be a great job.
So then we also sell industrial compressor, so Vilter. So this is a large Vilter recip. So we do lots of Vilter training. So it's pretty cool. I got lots of other things. Yeah.
Is that made by somebody else?
No, that's by a Emerson company called Vilter. So Emerson owns them.
What kind of tonnage or horsepower is that thing rated at?
Hundreds of tons they can do. And that's, there's probably a little echo in here. It's a big room. So here I built a little system here. This used to be called our flood back test to show the advantages of electronic valves. See, I got 2 electronic valves up here. I'll just show you. So we build lots of different electronic valves, but electronic valves are hands down better than any mechanical TX valve. But it all depends on the application. You're not going to just go put one of those on your fridge at home, for example. But I added a drive, so every Copeland compressor you can put a VFD drive on it, so I just got this on a ZB here. And like we got a low pressure control electronic one, super cool, like it's super simple set up. Takes like 1 minute to set those up, low pressure controls.
On that one there, that's the one that cycles the compressor 3 times before it lets it run. Correct?
It can, yes. Yeah,
what exactly? I know they're trying to prevent some sort of flood back or something, but what are they really trying to do with that?
That there is for flooded starts. It's called a bump start test. So in the middle of winter, just say that you got liquid refrigerant in your compressor. And the old school guys used to take a screwdriver and just push it in for a second, pull out the contactor, push the contactor in. This is all done safely, so it's done on done on that. Same as our X-Line unit, it'll have that. All our controllers, I believe, have them now, or most of them. So this is a great little thing that I had built a couple years ago. It's a electronic valve controller and electronic valve digital compressor trainer. So I'll get technicians in here and I'll unwire everything. I'll reset the program right to scratch, and I'll get them to do this by hand, just like they're in the field. You know what I mean? Because I think, that hands-on experience, like I said, is the best thing to get. And then just show them how to wire it. And because I see it all the time, even in these trainings, like, oh yeah, everything's good. And I pull on the wires and I pull them right out. Because most of the time I do lots of troubleshooting calls. Most of the times it's something simple. They didn't set the parameters right. They didn't wire it correctly. They didn't check the wires. And big thing is read the instruction manual. I get so many calls and guys or girls don't read the instruction manual. Got other Dixell. We own a company out of Italy named Dixell. These guys build so many cool controllers. Like that one there's a supervisory controller. So lots of different things. My last room, this is my training room. So I haven't been here in a long time. We're still in a lockdown here in Ontario, but I usually have this set up. Sorry for the mess, like with all the desks. But in here is our Vilter, this is called our Vilter training room. So this is a screw compressor from our Vilter company. So Vision 2020. And then this is our single screw compressor.
Wow, that's some big
sweet.
Screws.
I love those cutaways of the compressors or any mechanical device. Those things really just open your whole mind up to what's actually going on inside. They're great.
Yeah,
I
so
think you guys
that's a
need to
little
do a field trip.
tour here. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. Like 2 weeks ago, I was in here with a gentleman named Jim Dick. This guy is one of the experts in the world, I would say, in industrial refrigeration. So smart, a technician for 20 years, 30 years, and he worked at one of the biggest industrial contractors here before he came on with Emerson. But he does all the industrial training for us. And we spent a whole week shooting industrial videos. So, because he knows he wants to get more information out to the technicians. He knows he's been in the field hands-on, and that's one thing that I like about here. We hire a lot of technicians from the fields here in Canada, so it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that is amazing.
Quick show. I know I ran around pretty quick, showing you a lot of different things, but it's a lot of fun here. We got a lot of great support globally. We got amazing support. Hopefully, you get the same support in the U.S. because I know a lot of the team down there. They work really hard. Don Gillis is a trainer out of the U.S. man, and he is a true technician, trying to share as much information with the industry. So I know we're trying, Emerson's trying to do a lot for the industry. So I love it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Maybe we can get some contact information of some of your U.S. people, because as of right now, obviously nobody's coming in or out of your country, so it ain't like we're going to be able to get up there. So I definitely would be interested in. Like I said before, there's a Copeland in Ohio here that I've been through their facility, and they hire people all the time to be in the lab to tear things down, things like that. But it doesn't pay as much as what a service technician would make, at least the ones that I've seen position-wise. But it sounds like you've got some really big fancy stuff there that I didn't see down at the other plant that, maybe they'd only do, I think they mainly do scrolls and some, regular hermetic compressors. I forget exactly what all they do, but it's not, I didn't see nothing that big, but, it's also been 20-some years since I've been to that place. So.
Yeah. Yeah, they are the main inspection facility. They build the scroll compressor there. That they manufacture them there, and I was there a couple of years ago. I want to go again because every time I go there, man, I get goosebumps because it's so fun. Like I love refrigeration, but just seeing them, the quality control is unbelievable at that plant.
Yeah.
Like, and if someone says I got a DOA, like dead on arrival compressor, I that's highly unlikely because we test it leaving our factory. We run every compressor that leaves there. And I went through the quality control. I'm like, are you serious? No wonder it takes so long to get a compressor out, because there's such amount of quality control. It's amazing. So I love it. I can't wait to go back there.
Yeah, we've actually had one of our guys just he quit last year and went down there. He was getting in his mid to late 50s, and he figured it, it might be a little bit of a pay cut for what he was doing, but it was going to be a lot easier on his body and stuff. But it was also 45-minute to an hour drive down there. But they were riding with other guys that live up around my area, so it's always interesting because I drive by it. It's on Interstate 75, so it's been a while since I've been down there. But yeah, if you ever come to back down there, get a hold of me. I'd love to meet you and stuff. So
awesome, thank you. Yeah, it's pretty wild. When I went down there, you drive through the city, and you'll see Emerson buildings all over the place.
Yeah,
like
it's a small town.
Just the plant area, but then they have offices all throughout that town and that city.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Well, Marathon Electric was here in my town, which you guys bought them out and turned them into Emerson. So, yeah. I mean, Emerson pretty much went around buying everybody, I think, on a lot of scales. Because, Copeland and Emerson weren't together originally, were they?
No, Emerson bought Copeland, I believe, in 1986, I think, and then they
longer
released
ago
the
than I
scroll in 87.
Yeah. My wife is a musician, and she wants to know about the Emerson flutes and piccolos.
Did you know they had such a thing?
Well, I think that would be another company, like Emerson TVs.
So
different division.
It's kind of like Yamaha, because there's Yamaha like
four-wheelers and stuff like that, and then they got
Yamaha,
pianos.
Yamaha does pianos, they do sound equipment, they do flutes and piccolos, but yeah.
Mitsubishi, kind of the same thing. Make cars.
But they don't do musical instruments.
No, I don't think.
No,
but,
not that I'm
You
aware
should.
of.
Anybody should go and take a look on the companies that Emerson owns, because it'll blow your mind. Like Rigid Tools. Do you know who Rigid Tools are?
Oh yeah.
Emerson owns those guys.
Oh, really?
Emerson owns Rigid. Greenlee, if you ever heard of it.
It looks like Emerson's stock is up.
Yeah, maybe.
I just checked it out.
But like we're even on the automation solutions, we own Delta V, Rosemount, Micro Motion, you name it, Oviation, like Plant Web, and we own companies called like Alco. I said Dixell, White Rogers, Copeland, Vilter. We own used to own Closet Mate. I don't think we own Pro Teams, is a vacuum company.
I had no idea.
It's
awesome.
over 60 companies. Like Emerson is a huge player. InSinkErator's another one. You might have heard those. Those are like the food waste things that you put in your house.
Yeah, garbage or waste disposal, whatever. Yeah,
garbage disposals.
That was a pretty big brand back in the day. Interesting, definitely interesting.
Very interesting. I got to say, I'm just,
Yeah, I mean, this thing could go on for days and days. I mean, because we could go off on tangents of, the digital and just basic settings and how, because, I mean, it's just so many different things that we could go into, whether it just be scrolls or whether it be whatever. I mean, it's just, there's so many things we could go into that, you'd never be able to get it all done. But, so
that's like Refrigeration Technologies had the question last week. He wanted me to ask about the controllers. And I was like, well, this guy's a compressor guy. I don't know. Is he going to know about these? And apparently you do. He had the question that when was the first site supervisor installed? You said roughly, 2016?
2016, yeah, I think around that time. But not exact date. I know we launched it, around 2016, 2017 here in Canada. So it would have been in sites before that, I would assume, test sites. Yeah. But I know we were even in 2014 when I started, we were talking about the site supervisor. But now we're on the E3 Lumity brand. So we just rebrand to Lumity brand. So all our controllers like Cooper Atkins. I don't know if you guys know Cooper Atkins.
Oh, yeah. That's the thermometer brand I use. Yep.
Yeah. So, and then we have got CPC under there. We got Dixell. We got all our electronics, our controls, our solutions under this Lumity brand. Really cool branding they did on it. But It's a massive organization, and it takes a while to find each thing out. I've been spending the last 6 years honing in on my skills to research, find the top, to be honest, the top people within Emerson to connect with, so I can better myself. I always want to work with smarter people than me, and that's what I've been doing for the last 6 years within Emerson, and it's starting to pay off. Well, it has been paid off, as you can see.
Yeah, I've seen that X line.
Your
The X line you
family's
were
probably
showing.
very proud of you.
No, I hope so. I'm proud of
I
them.
imagine they probably are. That's great, man.
But to tell anybody out there that are technicians or service managers or business owners, the big thing is that if you want to learn refrigeration or HVAC, the step one is reading the manuals. Right? Don't be afraid that you have to spend a half an hour to read a manual. Find out there's even manuals for the components. Understand the system you're working on. So I know technicians don't like me saying this, but the night before or on that weekend, if you know you're going to go work out on a packaged air handler, get the manual and read it. Find out what all the components are in it, and then get the manuals for those components. Because a lot of the times you don't have a lot of in that manufacturer manual. It doesn't tell you exactly how that TX valve works. Does it have MOP, maximum operating pressure, in it, and things like that? Like, you got to go to the manufacturer of each component and then learn that. And over time, you'll get better and better. And it doesn't happen overnight, but it shouldn't happen overnight. It's a journey.
A couple questions out there. Eric Goldhammer was asking, are they still doing compressor training at supply houses? And he also asked, are there still sale rebuilt kits for the semi-hermetic compressors? I'm not sure on that with that one, Matt. I know we got training in our area for it.
I don't know about that. We sell mostly in the last 30 years, the industry has totally changed. Like, technicians don't repair, they can't change pistons. Some can, don't get me wrong. I know some guys on the East Coast that, if there's a failed compressor, they can fit, but we don't really sell even the parts anymore. It's hard to get the parts. Some other manufacturers do sell the parts, but it's very expensive to have a refrigeration technician to come and rebuild a compressor at a site. Industrial is a different story, but it's probably easier and cheaper for the skill level to install a new compressor.
Yeah, I know.
So valve plates for sure you can get, things like that. But when you're going in to try to change a crankshaft or a piston, that doesn't happen anymore.
One person also asked if you knew anything or can speak on Alliance compressor.
No,
I have not heard of that. Is that another brand? I think that's what it says.
Yeah, it says Alliance.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Cool.
Anything Copeland or Vilter I can speak on. For the supply house trainings, I know, reach out to Don Gillis or the Educational Services, or talk to your supply house. That's the big thing. Go to your supply house and say, listen, can you get Copeland to come here to my city or our town? That's the big thing, because it's up to the supply house to try to book the U.S. team, so Don Gillis and his team. So I would say to talk to the supply house, and if they don't know, tell them to talk to the Emerson rep. Every supply house that sells, like Copeland, for an example, should have a rep or one in that jurisdiction. So tell them to reach out to them and find out.
We usually have them, but usually they're like a 3-hour class, and I don't feel as though you're going to learn a whole lot in 3 hours. But I've not seen too many all-dayers or multiple day type classes where, you really tear it apart, and get nitty dirty on there.
Well, we do a 3-day one. So it's the cost. So Compressor Operations Service Seminar, that's a 3-day one. That's the one that the U.S. team does.
Okay.
So we don't, there may be half days, and I think there's a scroll day, just basic troubleshooting. But once again, reach out to Educational Services, Emerson Educational Services, and they'll be able to let you know what the offering is. They just came out with the 2021 booklet, so you can see all the different trainings the U.S. team puts on.
There was one question, which I think we got it earlier, from the Copeland mobile app in the contractor toolbox. The only training available to the public, ? There are several other courses listed, but appears to be limited to certain companies only. That was from Dave John Salona.
No, it must be at the wrong link. Anybody can register to these ones. If that's That's
said-
maybe the educational service portal.
They're using the Copeland mobile app. So
You can't get the
maybe,
contractor. I don't know if you can get to the contractor toolbox talk from the mobile app.
so that might be why.
Let me just check.
What would be the easiest way for people to get to the contractor toolbox app?
It's going to our website. So climate.emerson.com. And then you go into HVACR training.
Got it.
And then it should be the second or third link down. Let me just do it at the same time. So you go
That's
to
awesome.
training and support, and then you go to HVACR training. And then if you go down, I think it's the second one. Yeah, see contractor toolbox talk. So it's climate.emerson.com/en-us/training-support/HVACR-training.
You'll get there.
And it, yeah. It's
That's
a
awesome.
long
So
link. Put it in the chat for them.
There's no reason why anybody shouldn't go there, then.
Yeah, and you
'Cause you're
guys,
only gonna
once
learn
this screams over, you'll be
something.
able to back it up and be able to play this back multiple times to get whatever we've said.
And you
I'm
can
gonna
probably
be there.
put it in the description. Again,
Yeah.
pin it in the chat
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah, we could do
Afterwards.
that once we get all the correct links and stuff. We could do that down and below. I think a lot of times people don't even know that there's other sections underneath the videos where they can look and see all the details of the video. I think a lot of them just click on the icon and just see the video, but they have no clue that there's actually information behind the video listed down below there. Just like how they can look deeper into the person. If they click on the person's face or whatever, it takes them to their actual site on Facebook or on YouTube. And then you can look at all their videos by clicking at the top, whether it be videos, whatever, and you can see everything that person made. So if there's a particular YouTuber or whatever you want to see, you do that and you can see every video they've ever made. You don't have to just rely on the search engines and things like that. So that's how you can really dig in deeper to know more about whatever that particular person offers or has recorded.
I'm definitely going to be checking out this training at Emerson.
Yeah.
Climate.emerson.com. I'm going to be checking that out myself. So hopefully a lot of other people do as well. I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Yep, definitely.
Anything else you want to impart on us, Trevor?
Yeah, so anybody who wants to connect with me, reach out to me on LinkedIn. That's my main platform. Facebook as well. I use Facebook a lot. But yeah, reach out to me anytime. I'll do my best, try my best to help you or at least point you in the right direction. I do not have all the answers, but I love learning. So that's my goal.
Yeah,
Well, I got to say, man, it was a pleasure to meet you.
Absolutely.
For sure.
I mean, you're a wealth of information that we've only scratched the surface. It's pretty obvious that we could have went into multiple days of talking about whatever. After we wrap this thing up, if you would, don't log off. We'll kind of talk a little bit afterwards. But
Sure.
I know I told you maybe we go for an hour or so, which we're already at an hour and a quarter. So, I mean, we can start to wrap it up if you'd like. That way you can get home and
Sounds good.
stuff. So, wanted to thank you once again for coming in. Guys, check him out. He's on Facebook. He's got all kinds of
LinkedIn.
different videos. There's information down in the bottom to his LinkedIn account. It's already down there in the bottom. You can click on that, read his bio, and check them out. Obviously, Emerson makes some really good stuff. So by all means, if you want to be better, you're going to have to put a little effort in. And they obviously are offering that information. So once again, thank you for coming in. Guys, if you would, hit the like button out there. We're going to go ahead and wrap this thing up. And I want to thank you all for coming in. I appreciate it. And we will see you guys on the next one.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you all for coming. There's coffee and brownies out front.
And now, get out. Get out. Get out. Get out.
Okay, people, move along. There's nothing to see here.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight. We'll see you tomorrow.
You're still here?
Maybe do it again sometime?
It's over.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, concludes our show.
Go home.
And now,
The show's over.
The party's over.
Will you leave immediately, please?
I want to see motion, movement. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Get the point? Good.
Now get out!